Oh, I
Mine
love
knows how to
that.
open the doors in my house because we have the doorknobs that are like, they're like kind of horizontal. They're not the knobs. And so he can just swat it and open the door whenever he wants to come in
Just saying,
anywhere.
April's dog is a whole person. Like it's a whole part of the show. I swear, every episode we talk about
Talk about Baxter
Baxter,
every time. Yeah.
how sick Baxter is, his special health needs, and now his new talents of opening doors.
This is On Call.
House would be really cool to just wear scrubs all the time. Then you don't have to think about what you're going to wear to work.
That is awesome.
We're here to answer your questions.
We can sit down and discuss all. Wait, I gotta go. I'm on call.
Wait, you're on call? I thought I was on call.
Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of On Call with April and Alicia. I'm April.
I'm Alicia.
And I'm just saying.
Welcome. She's our
guest.
third. Welcome
Yeah.
to sing.
Thank you.
So welcome. We Justine is one of our chief medical officers for Sound Physician. So we're super excited to have you here with us today. So how are you guys doing today?
Doing well. Just saying, how are you?
Doing well. Living the dream.
Yeah, tell us where you are. Remind me again.
Well, today I truly am probably living the dream. I'm currently outside of Chicago in the suburbs, and it's that classic sunny spring day that gives you all that optimism. So
Oh, nice.
possibly literally living somebody's dream.
What's the weather? I like temperature.
Well, it's high 60s.
I don't know. I've been inside all day.
Yeah, I know. We're actually the same in Maryland today. We're like, I think a high of 68 and it's like sunny. And so I was on the phone earlier and I went out on my deck. I was like, I'm going to take this call on my deck because it's super nice out today. So
This is how you know
Hasn't
you're
pollen
getting
come in
old.
yet? That sneaky little pollen.
it hasn't quite yet, although there's a lot of kids around with stuffy noses and coughs and things, mine included. So it could be here already, unfortunately. So
I have my oldest came into town for her spring break, and she says, "Okay, Mom, like I have to bring my cat. Can my cat stay at your house?" Not a huge cat family, like I'm not, but it's her cat, and I was like, sure. She just adopted it. It's like, fine, whatever. That was 2 weeks ago. She's back at school, and this cat is still here. And I do have a true allergy to cats, so I'm like there's cat hair everywhere, and I was like, is it already spring? It's just funny you said spring, because I was like, is it already spring? Like, what's happening? Why are my eyes? And I was like, oh, this freaking cat. She's still hanging out. In the middle of the night, like 2 nights ago, she jumped up on the bed and like pawed me right in my face.
oh God.
And I'm like, I don't have any pets, so I was like, wasn't expecting to get beat up by a feline.
Well, at least you
overnight.
found it. I was like talking to you a couple weeks ago and you were like, I don't know where the cat went.
Oh my gosh, I had to cancel 2 calls. Just saying,
Did you?
I had
Where
to
was
cancel
it?
2 work calls because the very first day my daughter brought this cat, I couldn't find her. She went under the guest bathroom sink, and then the door closed behind her.
Oh, so she was like stuck in there.
She
in
was
the
stuck.
cabinet.
Yes.
Can you air tag a cat?
I wish. They're so sneaky. They're just so, like, if I could be any animal, maybe that'll be my question for you to see. If I could be any animal, I might be a cat. They're just so stealthy. I don't know how she got there. The cabinet door wasn't open. The kids weren't here for it to have been opened. No idea how she got in there. So it's like having like a toddler that can't speak.
I can see that. I used to have a dog that would, and we had a small bathroom, would go in, close the door with its backside by
Oh my
accident.
gosh.
And if we were gone, be like, oh, where'd Bear go? And you hear this like
Oh,
pitter patter,
Bear.
scratch, scratch. You open
Yes.
the door and it's like a birthday, and he's like, whoa, everywhere.
He's like, thank you. Oh, I
Mine
love
knows how to
that.
open the doors in my house because we have the doorknobs that are like, they're like kind of horizontal. They're not the knobs. And so he can just swat it and open the door whenever he wants to come in
Just saying,
anywhere.
April's dog is a whole person. Like it's a whole part of the show. I swear, every episode we talk about
Talk about Baxter every time.
how sick Baxter is, his special health needs, and now his new talents of opening doors. Bless his
Oh
heart.
yeah, he just busts right in. Like if I'm home alone and I don't lock the door for the bathroom, he's busting right down that door. And I'm like, dude, leave me alone.
Love
I'm
it.
just going to the bathroom.
Well, I love that it's
Like,
nice.
it's
It
my
sounds like
water bowl. What are you doing?
I know.
Right?
Yeah.
it sounds like it's nice everywhere. I love that. Definitely sunny here. We're in Cincinnati here, but just making sure that we stay on track. Just to remind our listeners, This is March. This is Women's History Month. We are celebrating our women of sound, and that explains why we have Chia-Shing with us today. We are going to get into the topic in a little bit, but just wanted to kind of, revisit what we were doing for Women's History Month. HERstory Unveiled. This will be episode 3. We're just going to keep our spotlight on these women. Our goal is really just to continue to ignite that flame of inspiration, empowerment, encouragement for all of our just listeners, our guests, everybody, independent of gender, male, female, but just to reflect on the past, celebrate their present, and continue our future, and hopefully a future. I said in episode 1 where gender equality is fully adopted. So thanks again, Chia-Shing, for being willing to kind of jump into this space and be spotlighted.
Gosh, thank you for putting this together. I mean,
we're excited.
Yeah, it's a great space for conversation, and the hope is that the conversation is broad and the kind of conversation that gets people thinking.
Well, yeah. So speaking of conversation, tell us. April mentions, hey, tell your sound story, your personal story, whatever your story is that you choose to share with this audience. Tell us a little bit about you and your journey, and then we'll get into our next segment.
Yes, thanks. So I guess my journey in sound and my journey out of sound are actually pretty tightly intertwined, for better or worse, and it's about a decade long. So the highlights reel is I joined sound not because I was seeking sound so much as I was seeking a job that I could do in northern Maine, up in Bangor, Maine, and sound.
I forgot you were from Maine. That's right.
Yeah. And actually, I'm not from there. I moved out there from the Mid-Atlantic area. So I grew up in Virginia, and we thought it'd be fun. We thought it'd be cool to go up to Maine. And so went up there and I looked around for a job. And this is the kind of thing that's really amazing. We asked somebody who knew somebody in town, because we didn't really know anybody. And just wanting to get a sense of, there are only 2 hospitals in town. 1, who's hiring, and then 2, if they could choose, where would they go? And both places were hiring. And this doc said, oh, hey, you definitely need to go to St. Joe's if you want to practice like a doctor. Like, sure. I guess everybody's definition of that's probably a little different, but that's pretty much how I ended up joining sound. And then we moved around a bit, and the really cool part is the roles that I've played within sound were able to move along with me and grow along what my family and I needed at any given point in time. And so because of that, I've been in Houston, been in Lufkin, I've been in Bryan, Texas, I've been up here in the Chicagoland area, like I mentioned earlier. And so that's been growth through sound. And now today, I guess I often say, like, I've got this Western region and I win if it's a landmass game, because our team's in Alaska, a really large state. And so it's been quite a journey, 10 years in the making. And the irony of it is about 3 years in, I think I told one of our chief medical officers at the time that I would never do administrative. They must have been hallucinating if they thought that I would do anything but bedside work. And so there's a lot of amusing irony to this journey too.
Yeah,
that's funny. I said that once too, and I think it was just about 4 years ago.
I said that too. I mean, when I came to sound, I had no aspiration to be administrative. Like, my kids were little. I wanted to do my job and go home and not be bothered after hours. Like, I just, it was, I think, just not even
broken
in my
by administration a bit too. Like I didn't want to be one of them.
Yeah.
Then I learned, how to make one of them a better opportunity. So that's awesome. I like that. All right. Well, we have this little segment we do, just saying, and if you've listened, and if you haven't, then now you'll know. It's called Let's Break the Ice. We're going to ask you just some quick fire questions, super easy, pretty chill, but just kind of level set the playing field, get us a little more comfortable, and have a little bit fun. Let our listeners get to know a little bit more about you personally. So, April, do you want to start with the first question?
Sure, I'd love to. All right, my first question. So we'll each ask you 2 questions. So my first question is, when you're reading a book, do you prefer to read like a physical book that you can hold in your hand, or do you prefer to read on an electronic device?
Oh, for fiction books, I definitely prefer a physical book. So
Okay.
I am that person that likes to read the title, the back cover, the inside flap, the beginning, and then I like to thumb through the middle, read the ending, and if I like it, then I go back and read the whole book.
Oh, you read the ending first? Oh, wow. Interesting.
What's
Interesting.
the payoff?
Do you read emails the same way? Because I do.
Like, yeah, do you scroll down to the last paragraph first?
I start at the
Read it
bottom of
down.
an email every time. I don't know why. I think that is like Montessori education that just taught me the summaries always at the end. So just read it. I was just curious. Do you read an email from the bottom up?
First of all, I have this like wash of dread if there is a multi-paragraph email.
Same.
It means something is wrong if it's that
Yes.
long.
If I have to scroll twice with my thumb, it should have probably been a phone call. That's the way I feel.
That's probably true.
That's too funny. Okay. All right. So you don't read backwards. It's just me. Okay. We'll keep moving. Just saying, let's think. If you could make one law that everyone had to follow, what would that law be?
I can make laws now.
Yes.
Yeah.
This is the
Keep moving on up.
room. You can do whatever you want here.
Whoa. Wow. That is a really, really hard one. Because part of this is I took just enough undergraduate law courses
Uh-oh.
to like obsess and swirl about this. So can we come back to this one?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I got a stumper. Go ahead, Abe.
Yeah.
All right.
And you don't
If
even have
you-
to answer it. I'll just ask you another one.
All right. So my question is, if you could have dinner with any celebrity in the world, who would it be and why?
Do they have to be alive?
Nope.
No?
Okay, so if alive or dead, I'd love to get like a philosopher. And I'm really not super picky. It's just sort of like who's available. But yeah, like Aristotle, any of them. And if is it just one person or is this dinner party scenario?
Whatever
get
you
to
want.
make it
You
up.
can have a dinner party
Oh,
or you
love
can have
it.
it just be one person.
Well, then I'd love to pair them up with someone who's had to make, in recent history, really hard decisions. So, like, think of any of the generals in recent wars. If we think about any, even more modern, like, it could be somebody who's alive. And I'd love to pair that up because I'd love to see the reaction of someone who hasn't seen, who's just getting this thin slice snapshot of humanity today, and get their perspective on, are we directionally correct? That's really what I want to know. From their perspective, are we directionally correct?
That would be an interesting conversation, I imagine. So, all
What
right.
if they say no?
Yeah.
Then what do we do? Then you change the law. See, now we can go back to the other
Yeah.
question.
I
You
think
could
so.
change-
I think you change the law and you do a pivot. It's lessons learned. It's an opportunity. The last, let's say, 2,000 years, give or take, and the next 2,000 years, give or take. I think it's a huge opportunity.
I like that. I'll be easier on this one, just saying. My question is, what's a talent that you have that no one knows about? At least maybe no one in the sound circle, or maybe April and I, or whoever.
Oh, I feel like over time I've shared so many bits and pieces of my life throughout sound. I think as an aggregate, if you guys had to reconstruct a composite of me in the future, I feel like this is the group that could do it. What is superpower? I don't know if I've talked about this a whole lot, but I've realized that I do better than I think on sleeping in moving spaces. I actually thought everybody could do this well. And then I realized not so much.
When you say moving spaces, what do you mean?
Planes, trains, and automobiles.
Oh, like traveling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that is.
Yeah,
super
not
fun.
everybody can do it for sure. Like there's some people that can't. I mean, I also can. Like I flew Monday this week, a couple days ago, and I got on that plane. It was an early flight, like a 6 a.m. flight, and I was asleep, I think, before we took off. Like, I sat down and I was out. But I don't think, yeah, not a lot of people can do it, I don't think.
Yeah.
I
And you
don't
gotta
travel.
capture it. You gotta capture it. Like as it's taking off, you're reclining more, and that pressure's on you like a weighted blanket.
Yeah.
Just gotta doze off.
Yeah.
No. I'm
Then you
immediately
wake up when you
thinking,
hit the ground.
no.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
That
the
probably
person
also
next
means
to
I'd be a
me.
horrible pilot. It just doesn't
Exactly. Please, please, please don't fly my plane.
And I'm also not going to ride in the car if you're driving. If we're traveling together. Just in case.
I didn't
you fall
realize
asleep.
this translated into sleep. I can't sleep in anything moving ever, ever, ever.
Oh, well, Alicia
Even
can
if
drive
I'm,
us while we take a nap.
I will
like it.
always be your driver. For
There
sure.
we go.
I'll land your plane according to our podcast with Tiffany. We talked about men that believe they can fly planes with confidence. I will land your plane. Excuse me, land your plane. Yeah, I'll land your plane for you too. I'll take care of you guys. You're fine. I'll never sleep, but then I'll get home and then I won't wake up. Okay. I think April, I'm fine with questions there. Are you good?
Good. I don't have any other questions.
All right, well, let's move on.
So we'll move on to the topic for today, which is artificial intelligence. So we asked Chia-Shing to come on for this topic because she's done a lot of work in this.
Oh, and I'm really
and
excited
so
to hear her.
yeah,
talk
so we're
about
excited
this.
to hear
Yep.
about some of the work you've been doing. And so let's start out by, if you could just tell us, like, how would you define AI? Like, and how do you think about it in your mind? Like, if somebody said to you, what do you mean when you say AI? What would you say?
I want to, if somebody today, and this would be different than if somebody asked me, let's say 5 years ago, because I think the word
Yeah.
artificial intelligence is all over media, all over news. That AI is really what we think of as generative AI or artificial intelligence. It's a facet. It's like a face, if you will, to this larger piece of machine learning. And the ability to learn and adapt is really what it is. Now, I am not, although some days I wish I was, I am not a technical expert in the sense of this is how it's constructed, this is how it's pieced together, this is what differentiates the evolution from algorithm to machine learning, because I think there absolutely is a difference. And in a lot of, it's fascinating to me because it's hit the media and because there's so much interest in quote unquote artificial intelligence. There are actually things that are fairly algorithmic that are being a little bit miscategorized as well. And so it's a wonderful question to ask, I think, out the gate, because that fundamentally there is a bit of a shift in terms of the adaptability. So if you've got an algorithm, it's a preset linear pathway. If you've got machine learning at play, then it ought to be, this is am I looking at algorithm or looking at machine learning? Your machine learning has an element of adaptivity to it that is constantly being refined.
So machine learning, just for clarification, is that like our spam, like our inbox, like our emails are constantly trying to seek, hey, this is a spam, so I'm going to push this to this box, or you don't receive emails from this this person often. Should this land in this inbox or should this come over here? And it's constantly just trying to guess where to put things. Is that what you mean by machine learning?
So that's a really good question. Historically, if we go back to the early days when we had this spam bots or any sort of protective mechanism against spam, the tools were highly likely to be algorithmic.
Okay.
I don't know exactly which ones out there right now are adaptive, but there are adaptive tools right now that are out there in the wild, if you will. And so I think right now, if we were to just take a cross section of every tool that's used for that purpose, then you'll likely actually get a mixture of those. It's sort of like if you see a car going down the street, some of them are going to be diesel, some of them are going to be gasoline, some are going to be hybrid, some of them will be truly electric.
Mhm.
And if we were to strip off all of the distinguishing features and characteristics and put them in the same chassis, then you might not know, actually,
Mhm.
without really detailed looking under the hood, quite literally, to see exactly what's at play.
Understood.
Makes
And
sense.
it seems so like complicated, doesn't it? But like it's like so in like a like involved in our lives every day. Um, when you think about this, just saying outside of cars and me talking about an inbox, when you think about this with healthcare, right? What do you see the impact of artificial intelligence being on our healthcare delivery systems?
So I think that there's definitely going to be an impact, and that this is also a fabulously sci-fi type of question because it's looking at what do we expect what's going to be in the future. And I think that with anything creative, it's always a result of where we've been, our history, our experience. And so you're familiar with the BCE added after years, and then CE, or sometimes it's AD, so a
Hmm.
designation of before
Mhm.
common era, common era. So
Hmm.
I like to think about healthcare, and I think you've experienced this as well, as before computers and EHRs, BCE, and then with computers and EHRs.
Yeah,
The big
fantastic.
difference,
It
the way
is a
that we
big
worked.
difference.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. And with that, if you look at that shift in the last 15 years, and really the computers and EHRs era has really been fairly short-lived and recent. It's the last, 15 to 20 years. Then you get a sense of what may come when we adopt a more complex technology, because that's really what it is. It's a technology, it's a tool with additional complexity sort of coming at us. And so I think of where and how the artificial intelligence will impact healthcare delivery. It's going to be at multiple facets just because of the way it's evolving and being designed to evolve right now.
That makes sense. Okay. Um, well, thinking in that sense of, what we foresee coming, what challenges or barriers do you think that there will be with implementing these solutions into our system that as it exists today?
Yeah, I think that the challenge will be not so much in the implementation of the technology, because part of this technology and part of what is nice about it is the ability to adapt into systems, because it is adaptive.
Right.
And if anything, I also wonder sometimes, does this flow into this idea, is this going to be part of what interoperability looks like and feels like? I think the challenge is going to be on how we bridge that to care, where that interaction finally of the care gets delivered to the patient. And
Right.
as an example, kind of going back to this last wave of techs with computers and EHRs, we went from a paper and pencil in a room with a patient experience to having this
Hmm.
third wheel, this third computing wheel very
Hmm.
prominently
Yes.
placed in
Hmm.
this conversation. And because of this, there were pros and cons, right? There's all this wonderful data that's out there. It improved processes, improved efficiency, accelerated scientific breakthroughs from a pacing perspective.
Hmm.
And yet it also created this healthcare industrial complex, if you will. Um, I suspect we all came into our current roles, and we were just talking about really caring about being at bedside, clinical with the patient and making that impact.
Hmm.
The fact that the last 15 years we've also introduced patient-centered care is very telling.
Right.
At
Right.
what
Yeah.
point did we realize that quote unquote care, or all things that are lumped into care, are not always patient-centered? It's because of this complex that we've created.
Hmm.
And so I think of a challenge as, are we able to get closer to that patient-centered care and basically drop some of that redundancy when we know care is care?
Right.
Or will we have to truly double down and reemphasize that? Because are we growing the industrial complex of healthcare.
Mhm.
I see that as a really existential challenge, if you will, as opposed to sort of a tactical barrier, something to overcome. And I actually think that's the greatest challenge of all. If we have learned in the last 15 years that we need to say patient-centered care,
Right.
Right.
then what do we have to say in the future? Human patient-centered care, just to remind ourselves of why we're doing this, right? But I do
Yeah.
worry about it.
Yeah,
I
no,
do.
Yeah,
it's
that's a
true.
good point. I mean, if
Yeah.
you think about the amount of time that we spend in the computer versus like at the bedside with the patient, it's quite a bit of
Human to
time on the
human
computer,
interaction,
So,
we'll call it. Just saying, when you speak to that, are there any applications or certain technologies that exist currently, or you see maybe on the horizon that are particularly promising to healthcare in general? I think we think of. I was actually listening to a podcast, and I think you and I talked about this one time offline about just even Epic and just the AI role within Epic and how that's developing, and then there's I've heard all these different technologies like the doctors wearing glasses that are actually recording the interaction with the patient and or they can see all the imaging through their glasses, like it's just kind of all this like rad stuff to me that still sounds pretty futuristic, but I know it's in the works and I know that you've been way more tapped in than I have. Anything on the horizon that you see or maybe that needs to exist to improve healthcare?
Yeah, I can certainly talk about. There is a lot, and I think that just even some of the national conferences have also been featuring sort of this buzz of scribing as a way to
Mm-hmm.
decrease burnout and capture all of the information, and so essentially informational capture by AI. I think of that as the interaction piece, increasing some of that efficiency. There's also, I think, some additional buzz too around the impact AI is having and can further have around accelerating research from a pure computing perspective, from a pure
Mm-hmm.
probability perspective. And it actually comes out, I think that there are a couple of buckets actually, is where I'm headed towards. And so that's one bucket. I think that there's also another bucket that is really more for administrative efficiency. So it may not be truly front facing to the patient, but on the back end. And as a side note, I actually think that will be a little bit of a commoditization, a race to the bottom dollar, if you will. And then there's this other bucket, and these are the buckets, by the way, that this is not inclusive of all of healthcare. I think this is just more prominent front of mind for practices like ours. So there's another bucket that really is around clinical best practices, algorithms, following the algorithms. And I think all of this is great, but what we sometimes don't necessarily talk about is that there's a lot of challenge in each of these areas to really be aware of. And so it's one piece. So there's this fine line. You can have this AI that scribes, that captures the information, right?
Mm-hmm.
And to further streamline it, sometimes the capture mechanism or the app or whatever technology that you're using will then go forth and try to streamline and refine and edit it for you. Well, that's where it gets very interesting because some of those models are applying what might be true 99% of the time, but may not be true in this particular instance. And so that presents a challenge because now we're asking, and I do think this is a lot more conversations needed about this, but then we're asking that everyone who's making a clinical or medical decision is also at the same time investigating, questioning, and doing a little detective work on a little bit of trust but verify on what's already on paper that the AI has put down.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Well, it's interesting.
Yeah.
It sounds so complicated, but ugh.
It does. Well, how do you think that, or do you think that AI will be able to help address any healthcare disparities in the US?
I am super optimistic about its capability to do so. But whether or not it actually does, I think comes down to the human element. I think that with the advent of AI, there's also these newsreels around and the clickbaity headlines about how it's going to take over jobs, right?
Yeah.
And how it's going to take over tasks and roles. And yes, and it also emphasizes that there's another set of roles that are incredibly important that only humans can do. And part
Right.
of that is exactly this. There will be efficiencies and breakthroughs that AI helps foster, helps usher in from just a pacing perspective. But how do we use that windfall is going to be an incredibly and a uniquely human endeavor. And
Hmm.
sometimes I wonder, last 15 years, we now have a lot more efficiency in the system, but where have we spent the additional capacity and bandwidth? Have we increased access? Have we increased outcomes? Or have we just further entrenched existing biases and existing issues? So I'm optimistic. I think it has the capability to do so, but whether or not it does or does not will really come down to the humans.
I was about to say, still has to be human led, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. When you say that, it made me think about HIPAA and patient privacy and data privacy and all of those things. And what have you heard on the forefront around, some of these newer innovations? How are we protecting patient data, patient privacy, things like that with an AI format?
Yeah. I think there's two types of protection needed. One is from what we call bad actors. And I don't know that we're
Hmm.
ever going to be fully protected against breaches and security. So, if you want to Google ransomware or hackers and
Oh
healthcare,
my gosh,
you're
yes.
going to get a lot of bad news on that one.
Yeah,
So there's a lot
unfortunately.
going on now. And it is a little bit, if we are using specific types of models to protect, I mean, it's an arms race on both sides when we talk about bad actors. There's another piece that you touched on that I really think deserves attention and conversation too, is what about the patient as an individual within the system, right?
Hmm.
And that was the idea of HIPAA. And there's also this question, at what point is data and access to that data sufficiently anonymized and meta to be used as part of AI systems? And
Right.
that is I think that's probably a whole podcast series unto itself.
Yeah.
The philosophies and the policies behind that. And because at the end of the day, a lot of these AI models, part of the ability for them to continuously learn and adapt is dependent on receiving the right data. So
Hmm.
they've definitely taken sort of the junk in, junk out adage to the max. And that is where we're sometimes seeing some of the bias kind of formulate. If they've been trained on or received data that is biased to start with or selective, then that's going to shape their quote unquote development, if you will. And so that is an interesting place. But if we do it without the data, if we use all synthetic, and I don't know if you've heard the term hallucinations,
Mm-mm.
but yep. So with
Well, I
synthetic
mean,
data,
yes, but not in this
clinically,
sense.
Not in this setting.
Yep. Well,
I mean, April
definition
has
is
them
right.
every day, but
Not every day.
oh, every other. I'm sorry.
No, and a lot of these hallucinations are sort of within context, and you can actually think about this too.
Well, what is a
So,
hallucination? Just saying. Sorry.
yeah,
Is
well,
that what you were getting ready to say?
yeah, no, that's a
Okay.
great question. And I was actually just saying, like, clinically for us, for when we have a patient who is seeing things that are, and we have a couple of questions to determine, are you having a hallucination, right?
Right,
But
right.
if you are quote unquote seeing things that are not there, um, cognitively what's happening sort of up there in the brain, and um, this is just as much medical theory, I think, as anything else to a certain extent. But there is certainly this thought that it's your brain's got restored memories and you're missing some inputs, and so therefore you're hallucinating to fill in some gaps.
Okay.
And so hallucination slash memory gap slash some sort of fabrication, all along that spectrum of what we describe, that is happening with some of the machines that don't have any new or different data, but you ask it a question. So it's going to, it's developed to give you an answer.
So you
Oh,
think it can
interesting.
give
So it
like
just
some
fills in
false
the gaps.
information based on that? Yeah. Interesting.
Ooh, that's creepy. But also kind of makes sense if you ever go on just a chat GPT platform, and depending on what you ask it, sometimes you're like, oh, this is great. And other times you're like, huh? Um, I guess that's hallucinations. When you say just seeing, also, I just wanted to touch on the privacy piece. You said bad actors. There's also pretty significant financial implication for healthcare systems, which I think maybe the breaches are a little bit different. And I don't know what it's like in standard corporate America, or you breach a lot of these apps that get breached every day, or websites that get breached and information gets sold. But I do understand, and I'm going to misquote this, but it's like 100,000 minimum, what the system has to pay for every breach of information, which and it could be a lot more than that now. But I do know, like, some of the reservation around a lot of hospitals or just even systems looking into adopting AI was the breach concern because of the fines that are on the back end of it. So I didn't know if you knew anything about that or wanted to comment on that.
I can certainly comment on it. I'm probably not going to be the most knowledgeable, but I always have an opinion. So
Let's hear it.
Me too.
Love it. So I think AI, particularly when handling or interacting with patient level data, very detailed data that can be distinctly drawn to an individual human, that is where you're right. There's a bit more of a conservative approach because the risks are absolutely out there. What is interesting, though, is I think that there is a lot more of an appetite in using data that is perhaps not tied in that way. So I just think of too, how many of our partners and how many hospitals out there are using any of these tech platforms and apps. I mean, how many people are on Microsoft and how many people are on Teams? And there are elements of machine learning that is behind the workings of these products that we use every day. And somebody once made the comment to me, well, at some point, Microsoft's totally hacked and we're all kind of totally hacked.
Yeah, pretty much.
And there's already, maybe not in the sense of a patient, who is really the way we think about it, is it's a person who happens to have some sort of for us, especially us in the inpatient space, a decrease in their baseline health quality. And that's why we're seeing them. That's what we do.
Right.
But at the core, every one of us is theoretically a patient, and we're feeding in tons of data all day, every day.
Right.
So it is interesting that data is already flowing out. It's a different kind of data, for sure. It's core to who we are. I mean, shoot, all three of us are talking about what makes us us right now.
Yeah, it's true.
Agreed. Interesting.
The
stuff usually doesn't leave me speechless. If you can tell, I'm like a little bit more, like so much to absorb. Good Lord. It is. It's fascinating.
Like,
it almost just feels like it's worthy of more than
evolve. Yeah.
Correct. Like worthy of more than one episode.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Well, one last question. So you did talk about kind of how, moving forward as AI develops, it really is going to be based on how we as humans interact with it and utilize it. So are there any strategies currently in place, or do you think we need to put some strategies in place to make sure that our healthcare professionals are trained adequately to use these systems as they get developed?
Yes. So I think that this is where there's a departure from the CE era, the computers and the EHR era. I don't know if any of you were part of extensive rollouts, which involved a lot of scanning in paper files. I mean, it's a
Yes.
great way to make an extra couple of bucks. There's always more paper to be scanned. And this slow morphing of individuals from paper and pencil to what we called hunt and peck out the orders on a keyboard, then to the hunt and figure out where to click. And hopefully you didn't click the right side of the correct side, or the incorrect side of the mouse.
Right.
So I think from a technological adoption, I'm fairly optimistic that the AI interfaces that are out there today, by and large, make that easier. Where I think will be the next new skill. So in this computers and EHR era, that skill was interfacing with the computer. I actually think that the new skill, it's like fashion. It swings all the way back. We'll be talking more and emphasizing more in training about critical thinking, trust but verify.
Right.
Yeah. Is what's in front of you actually real and reasonable for this particular scenario?
I love that.
Makes sense.
I actually really think that's an important, like, take home. Trust but verify.
Yeah.
For sure.
Like if something doesn't seem right, it probably might not be right. So you better take another look. Yeah.
You can't lean on it.
Yeah.
100%, you know, it just, you can't lean on anything, but no, I like that. I think that's one piece. That's maybe one thing Chia-Shing I have not heard anyone yet say. So I really do like that. I like that concept.
I think the next step behind that too is, when we talked about this a little bit at the outset, is also, all right, we have a plan now, and it seems to, we've trusted and we verified. And so now we can double down on that trust that from a technical perspective, this will work out. The really key part that really comes down to human-human interaction then is this what the patient wants? And so that's putting the human and the patient right back at the center of care. So we could have this beautiful plan in theory, and it just isn't what they want, how they envision their future, or how they envision their care going. And that's where I think it'll be very interesting, because there's got to be cases that are going to be, hey, the human clinician you know, kind of went against the protocolized back end. And so then that's going to be really key and really important, though, because we know that's why we're in this field, and that's why we're doing all the things that we're doing. So when a new tool comes into play, how do we reconcile that with our patients? And I think that's where it's perhaps, I don't know if it's necessarily training, but it certainly has a lot to do with values alignment, and a lot to do with how do you bring your values to bear in a meaningful way.
Yeah. It's interesting. Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say, I have a friend of mine who, her friend had gotten, a mammogram, and they did it with AI. Like, I don't know all the details of it, but she's, she called my friend and said, next time you go for a mammogram, let them do the AI version, because it picked up on something that was like super small, right? But that wouldn't have gotten picked up on an ultrasound. So she was like super impressed with, the fact that they could pick up on that. Yeah.
I need to know. I wonder what that is.
Well, I'll see if I can get more information for you.
Yeah.
But she highly recommended it.
April can update everybody on the next episode. Just saying, before we close, this is not a question that was planned, but you went to a concert, Lord. You went to a conference recently, an AI conference. I know you and I talked before. We didn't really follow up much after that. Was there any takeaways from that conference, or even just any takeaways in general? It doesn't have to be from that, but anything we haven't covered today, anything that you'd like to just speak to?
Yeah, I think AI absolutely, and in its many forms. And so you mentioned one, sort of how it's impacting radiology. And so there's a lot of, I think, very specific industries and niches, and it'll all impact a little differentially. What I'd love to hear more conversation around actually is, with each of these impacts, to circle back to when we talk about patient-centered, human patient-centered. I mean, we joke about that, But
Right.
there is some evolving language, which I'm a big fan of making sure that it's always human-centered, and that it's not that there's that the benefit is always carefully weighed, as much as the process, because that's what's fast and exciting, and sexy, if you will, right now, right? It's the
Right, right.
technological blow up that's happening around us. But what is really important, I think, though, is within all of that, not losing sight of, hey, we're just people taking care of people. And that is still very, very important.
Right. I never want a machine taking care of me. I love the advances of technology, don't get me wrong. I still love the human interaction. Like
Yeah.
personally, I need it, and I also love it as a clinician. I almost sometimes loathe the technology that sits between a patient and myself. But I do think patient-centered, human patient-centered, something I'll definitely keep in the forefront of my brain moving forward.
Well, I couldn't hope for any more.
Yeah, I like that. Well, if you've got nothing else, April, any other questions or any thoughts?
No, I'm all good.
Well, I think this was definitely an episode that we could have probably gone for another hour or two, and just saying we'll probably bring you back in the next couple of months once things evolve and we learn about new technologies that are developing. But in the interim, anybody listening, if you have any questions for Chia-Shing, please feel free to reach out to us. Questions about the podcast today, show ideas, reach out to us at oncallpodcast@soundphysicians.com, or you can follow us certainly on Instagram at On Call with April and Alicia. And we look forward to talking to you guys on the next episode.
Until next time, you guys stay well and we'll stay on call. Bye, everyone.
Take care, everybody.